I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to begin with a moment of silence, please. Roll call. I'll start with Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Shimke.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is present. And Commissioner Culberson.
Here.
And Commissioner Cause.
Here.
All right. All commissioners are present. We'll start with our public comment portion of the meeting. And our first public comment is James Tingle. Please come forward to the podium and state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm James Tingle, and I'm the Holes neighbor, and I don't think their business is an inconvenience at all. The trucks are all very quiet. You never know they're there. I have no reason to not vote for a yes for this. I think I enjoy having them next door. They're good neighbors.
Okay. And what did you say your address was?
24910 Loring Road.
Loring, and you're to the east, west of the...
I'm to the west.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You didn't take his full 3 minutes.
You're right across the street from the Sweargans? Directly across?
Yes.
Directly across from the Sweargans? Okay.
All right. Ed Irvine. No, Becky's up
Becky's
there.
got him.
Thanks, Bill.
Morning, Ed.
Good day, Commissioners. My name is Ed Irvin. I live at 13561 246th Street. I'm all for good business, and the halls have good business, but the place for this type of business is not in a rural residential area. The area of the county is supposed to be utilized for rural homes and agriculture according to the comprehensive plan. If you approve the tri-hall business, it will open the door for the industrialization of southwest part of Leavenworth County, specifically Loring Road. That is not what the neighborhood wants in this area. The county has flat not done their job in this situation dating back 6 years that the tri-hall has been running the business at their location. Why has the county failed to do their job? If you allow this business, it is covered for the county personnel who have not done their job. If you approve the SUP with the condition, it would appear to me that you're rewarding bad behavior for the halls and the inability of the county personnel for not doing their job. Why can certain people seem to get a consistent break of the rules and nothing is done about it? What leads you to believe that they will suddenly follow the conditions that you set forth in the SUP? And if this happens, and if you pass the SUP, then will they abide by the conditions? If there are no more teeth in the law than what the county has exhibited in the past 6 years on this property, then the conditions set forth by the county will be ignored, plain and simple. Unless the county is willing to treat every and each citizen the same, then this issue will continue. No more sweetheart deal, backroom deals, because I'm watching and I'm taking notes. Their crane business started out with one crane, then another, then another, then another, until now we're at 4. I know that the MX track was not included in the SUP, but this has been taking the same growth pattern as the crane rental business. Start small and grow it. Is this what the county wants? Stop this type of activity now. We all know that it's more than just family and friends, and the sponsorship of the kids on the MX track is directly connected to their crane rental business. This ties the two together. I have consulted with attorneys on this issue, and if the county approves this, the entire issue will have to be revisited down the road. Only the next time it will not be this easy. We have not done anything on some of these unanswered questions. We got a KDOT road study, okay? What about the dust abatement? What about the noise? What prevents them from operating beyond the hours that have been set in the SUP? What about the salvage business? What about the lack of screening? What about the tube that may have to be replaced on Lord Road? Where are you going to divert the traffic? That's all I have to say. We're not for this because this does not conform with what the neighborhood really wants. And I believe that the deck has been stacked here, and even the attendance here today, that I was not given a chance except for just a talk.
Okay.
That's all I have to say. I thank you guys very much for your attention, and Vicki, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to take them.
All right. Thank you. Your
Thank
3
you.
minutes is up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Becky Swearinger.
Rebecca Swearingen, 24921 Warren Road.
Morning.
Warren. Please do not pass or prolong the tri-hole SUP. How many half-facts do we need? The sometimes, usually, most of the time, the salvage is clean. As Olson stated, use of legal-sized trucks allowed. According to the Kansas Department of Commerce website, 8.5 feet are legal, 12 feet to run on the turnpike, not rural dirt roads on a daily basis. What are the cranes? According to Lauren, 20 feet is wide enough to pass. The margin to pass with this much dust on our road is an obvious real hazard. KTA stated that they cannot confirm because no size or weight was given. Whomever runs the Planning and Zoning Committee really needs to find a true director. The current board didn't even know where and what part of Boring Road was paved when making decisions on multiple SUPs. We want this SUP resolved. If it is allowed to be tabled, fines should be in place for continuing business for the residents of Leavenworth County. What do you think the citizens will say for those that have followed protocol and paid for an SUP? Those that were denied, and all taxpayers that will find out that our county is not receiving fines for businesses that are running illegally. Screening around the salvage yard must go up immediately, as well as dust control tomorrow. This business cannot continue to run and keep being pushed back. This Pandora box must be stopped. As our borders are infiltrated with Douglas, Wyandotte, and even Jefferson County, businesses escaping commercial and less taxation, Leavenworth Planning and Zoning must come up with some form of standards. Not understanding the water situation with the aquifer, letting SUPs pass without proper bathrooms for the general public, to making stipulations that the county will not follow or hold up is ridiculous. The bottom line is no commercial business in an agricultural reserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger Swearingen's next.
Morning.
Morning.
Roger Swearingen, Rocky, 24921 Warren Road. The Holes are decent people. They're currently making an effort. They've cleaned up much of their property. The traffic at the motocross track is lessened. They moved cattle in this week to try to conform to ag zoning requirements. This is great. They're making an effort. I hope we can be cordial neighbors in the future. I believe a lot of this is due to the proceedings today, but they're making an effort. The world we live in right now is currently a mess. From what I see, the reason is rules don't matter. If I want something or having an agenda, stretching the rules is okay. From driving down the interstate at 5 miles over the speed limit, 17 items in an express checkout lane, to the dumpster fire that is now Washington, D.C. We're all guilty, but enough is enough. It's time to start doing the right thing. Reward people for doing things the right way and following the laws, protocols, and procedures, instead of those that blur the lines to profit and get ahead because nobody got hurt yet. The elephant in the room is the industrial heavy traffic on our road. Currently, the west end of Loring Road has a culvert and highway intersection that are not designed for this kind of traffic. Does it take a wreck to open your eyes? Somebody getting hurt? So I nearly had a head-on collision with their large crane less than a year ago when I was exiting the highway and they were coming up to the intersection on my side of the road, almost in the ditch, to make a turn north onto the highway. Enough is enough.
They have eluded fines and paying commercial taxes for years. Enough is enough. How much taxpayer money has the county spent on engineers, traffic studies, road repairs, and office and clerical time for the benefit of tri-hole drains? Enough is enough. Salvaging materials from job sites that may be clean, sometimes clean, or usually clean, as stated by Duskett at the planning and zoning hearings, is another issue. I don't care if it's done for profit, done for loss, or even done for charity. Our laws say you must be zoned industrial for that part of their operation. Enough is enough. It is not relevant if they do work on a hospital or an overturned tractor in an emergency situation. They're paid for those jobs. Tri-Hole has reaped the benefits of this situation too long. Enough is enough. Vote no on this SUP now. It is high time to start doing the right things. Follow our laws that are in place. I'm just tired of it all. Enough is enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the public comment portion of our meeting. Mr. Van Perry, is there any administrative business this time?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, has everyone had a chance to look at everything? Is there anything that needs to be pulled off and voted on separately? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
All right, thank you. All right. We're ready for planning and zoning. How are you today, Crystal?
I'm well, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Good morning.
All right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commission. Before you, I have a request to approve Resolution 2020-27. This is a special use permit for Trinity Child Care Facility. This is a special use permit that has been in operation for quite some time. They're not asking any changes. They're just going to continue to operate the way they have been for over the last decade. The Planning Commission recommended 8-0 to recommend approval of this. We are recommending approval of this for 20 years since they're not requesting any changes. They've stated that they're pretty much at their maximum capacity. So they wouldn't be able to expand on what they currently have. They would have to have some sort of other expansion which would require them to come back if they were to do that. The applicants are here, I believe. If you have any questions for them, you're very welcome.
Don't have any questions. I drive by it all the time. Any other commissioners have any questions on this?
Just thank you for providing the services you do.
Absolutely. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-27.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the special use permit for Trinity Daycare? Voting.
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
Thank you.
Right. The second item I have before you is Resolution 2020-28. This is a request for a special use permit for an automotive repair shop known as B&G Automotive. B&G Automotive operates in the Westbrook subdivision on a lot that's approximately 2 acres in size. They have several neighbors in the area. This business was operating without a special use permit for the last year or so. They did come in as soon as they were informed that they needed a special use permit to begin the process. Staff has a number of concerns regarding this, most notably that this is an auto repair shop that's located in a fully developed subdivision. This is not one of those subdivisions we have out in the county where everybody's on 5 or 6 acre lots and it's spread out there between 1.5 to 3 acre lots. The business is accessed by an internal subdivision road, not by a standard arterial collector type road out of the county. And the business activities in the past have not been fully enclosed within the shop. The applicant has made substantial improvements over the last couple of months in order to get the repairs into the shop.
when this was first brought to our attention, there were cars out on the grass and such. Sometimes they were even parked on the road, so they were maybe getting in a little over their head. It is an operation that is ran by 2 people. They don't have any other employees. The applicants have stated that they would like to be in a different location sometime in the next 3 to 5 years. They realize the place that they are currently at is not ideal. Again, staff recommended denial of this application. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this. I will entertain any motion that you may have.
Did they have any, planning and zoning, did they have any kind of stipulation or suggestion that there be a stipulation that within X amount of time they do relocate?
The Planning Commission certainly indicated that they believe that they should begin to look. They did not put a condition other than an approval for 3 years with the intention that within 3 years they would have found someplace else or we would re-review the application within 3 years.
And if this had not come to your attention and, well, rephrase it, if someone was wanting to initially set up a business like this in that location, typically it would not have been voted in favor of by the Planning Commission, or you would not as staff.
I would have been very honest with the applicant when I came to our office and told them that I would not be recommending approval of the application if they would have come in at the very beginning. Of course, we don't ever tell anyone if they're not allowed to apply for a special use permit.
Right.
I would not venture to guess what my Planning Commission would have done.
But typically in this type of case, you would have recommended against
Yes,
it.
I would have.
Well, the history of this subdivision, it was put in the late 80s, early 90s as a rural subdivision. It was gravel roads. In fact, the residents had to pay to have the roads hard surfaced several years later. And you have a concern over an extra driveway. Well, back then, the county had no access management. We encouraged the sale. We used to sell pipes. We would deliver pipes. We made money off of it and put them in. So to having to remove a pipe that somebody paid for and that bought it from the county and the county installed it, I don't think that's right.
We don't actually have, for that third driveway, we don't have a permit for that. We do have permits for the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, when that was put in, there was no access management policy.
Right.
It does certainly violate today's access management policy.
Right. But people actually bought these pipes from the county. We used to sell pipes we probably shouldn't have. We would charge to deliver them. We would charge to put them in. And there's all kinds of these out there like that. I don't think the third driveway tube should even be an issue here because it's nothing anybody's done illegally, unless the county did it illegally. And like I said, I've been by the location. After this came up, and I didn't see a large amount of cars or anything. No cars on the grass or anything.
They've worked hard to get it cleaned up. They certainly have. No doubt about that.
So once it came to light, they worked hard to get it cleaned up.
Yeah, they're in compliance. When I drove by, I've been by a couple times since this came up.
And if this would not be approved, would that shut their business down? So, I mean, to me, that's a big issue.
It is a real big issue, especially when the reason they started this because of a business closing down. Obviously, I've never gotten so many letters of support outside, from people and phone calls that support this business. So obviously, they're a good business, a good, honest business, a business we want in this county.
Exactly.
Well, there's a couple of things. So if someone has 20 vehicles on their property and just collects them, there's nothing we can do about it. The fact that one's repairing them is a part of a business. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I drive by houses all the time that have lots of yard art or whatever you'd like to conclude it be called. But the difference of trying to repair or fix. No, not at all.
Most of those are in Missouri.
But, and then there's this confusion, I think, of many residents as, anytime there's a business in the county, if they haven't undergone this process, it's because they're trying to skirt it or they're trying to operate illegally. And most of the time, they're starting a business and they don't know what the process is.
Mm-hmm. And you
Until-
don't know if it's going to take off.
An incident comes up, and then
Yeah.
So just a couple of things. I could let Mr. Van Peer speak more clearly to we do have a resolution about junk vehicles and such on, but we don't have we don't really have many rules against, like you said, if they're licensed vehicles, if they're registered vehicles, and you like to repair vehicles, you are right. You can have a number of vehicles on your property. That is a little bit different, though, than people, customers coming in and out repeatedly throughout the day bringing vehicles
Sure.
in. It is worth noting, there was no protest petition. We did have a couple of neighbors who complained. That's how we found out about this.
Right.
That's how we find out about most businesses that are operating without a special use permit.
But unlike a lot of feedback, in this case, there's actually a lot of neighbors. Usually the neighbors are spread over several miles.
Right.
These are right on top of each other.
But you had no testimony as far as public testimony against.
And we've got letters of support for the business from the people that live in there, and some people are just customers. I've had them as far away as Lansing in your area. So,
Well, any kind of a business like this. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Commissioner.
Now, at some point, have to begin grasp businesses that come in residential or agricultural areas that are not in any way, shape, or form designated to be business, or whatever. We have to figure out a way of stopping this because I think it's beginning to get out of hand. And not that I understand that sometimes people don't know, but I know when I bought my property, I don't know what the zoning is. And if they don't, they should.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this business has no employees as family, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, this is just family. It's a family business.
And we probably have hundreds of the. I mean, I don't know how many in the county.
Farmers are family businesses.
Right. I mean, we have. But I do understand what Commissioner Cause is saying is if we have a rule and we're not going to enforce it,
But we have a rule. They can do a special use permit for a home-based business, and they're following these rules.
Well, I mean, initially they didn't.
Well,
So.
but they're complying now.
This is Commissioner Todd, standard small business such as that, but if a business begins to grow, it becomes a hindrance to the surrounding property owners or to the area, it is outgrown the mom and pop,
Right,
my business or my in-home business.
right. And I'm sure the business owners would see that too. If they're going to grow, they're going to need a larger shop somewhere, that's. But it's a business. It's it's got to be financially feasible to do. So.
I just don't want to come to the point where the answer to the growth is that within a residential or agricultural thing, we just build a larger garage or a larger shop, that these individuals need to understand that if their business closes that point, there is a time limit to this, and they need to begin to look at other
All right.
locations.
And I believe.
Their business is known.
I believe this particular business would do that because I don't believe their property is large enough to allow to build a large shop on. I'm not sure what the acreage there is, but
No, I think most of the SUPs that come in front of us that are, whether they've been in existence or they're growing business, realize that they could get to a size that would require or mandate a relocation. I think when people hear commercial, they assume that just means that you can take on $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in overhead or rent, or that there's buildings and parking and asphalt at every corner. In which case, we got plenty of inventory, and that's not the case either. So I think there has to be a delicate balance, and if you had a dozen neighbors that have realized that this has become real problematic because of the neighborhood it is, then I think that's very different than what in this instance has been
And
done.
as far as deliveries go, I think the world's changed since March. I think we all get a lot of deliveries at our house.
I don't talk
I've
about
had
Amazon.
I've had Amazon, FedEx, and UPS all in the same hour one day. So,
And I think that's a good point, Doug, and I just want to say, I agree with Vicki. But I feel like that's what this board is for, is to mediate what's the cutoff point for a small business in the rural agricultural area. That's how we generate more taxes, so I don't want to see a stop to it, but once they outgrow the neighborhood, and I think, this board's position is when is the cutoff to where a business outgrows the neighborhood where they probably need to find a lot in an industrial park. But I don't see a problem with these small business SUPs when they don't generate more traffic than agricultural combines and hay wagons going down the road, delivery trucks like you're talking about, mom and pop grocery or vegetable stands. So as long as they don't take up a lot more space and generate more traffic and cause more damage to the roads than your regular agricultural farming equipment, I think that's our job, is to say, well, they're not generating any more problems than the farm next door or the person that gets 100 deliveries from Amazon every day.
I'm not that bad yet.
Yeah. So,
And also, they are providing a service to the community.
mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody owns a vehicle.
Yeah, and that's how we pay for the roads. We changed their assessment from agricultural to commercial.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Codd, and I agree with all that, because I think that having a garage within, neighborhood and things is a great thing, car repair. It's just, if they begin to outgrow, is my point, when they've gotten to
Okay.
this point, or if they get to this point, they need to move into a different size parcel or to a business park.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But like my
Right.
point is, nobody talks about how many combines go down that road, or how many grain trucks, or how many hay wagons. Those all weigh just as much as a dump truck or a semi trailer.
Right, but
The grain cart weighs more. One axle.
Well, and Vicki, to your point, I think it was the Planning and Zoning Commission that recommended, that this be a 3-year SUP and reassessed, and obviously those decisions be made and see if the conditions have changed versus a 5-year, a 10-year, or a 20-year without conditions.
So the people that objected, which did not appear before us or before the Planning Commission, did they give you specific reasons, or was it just that they are violating our policy?
So we did receive a letter, and like I said, a complaint. And primarily the complaint was twofold. One, that there were substantial vehicles out, like I said, being parked on the grass and sometimes even on the road. And then that, yes, there was a business activity occurring in their neighborhood. And this is, we have so many parcels out in the county that are not in neighborhoods. They're in large, sprawling areas where, your nearest neighbor is, half a mile away. That's not the case in this one. This is a rural neighborhood, a true definition of a neighborhood. So there were some complaints about that. And certainly I'll say that the person who complained after Mr. Brassfield got out there and cleaned stuff up, that person did call and say, hey, he's really cleaned stuff up, and we really appreciate that.
So one of the complainants actually called back and said,
Yeah, they didn't put anything official on the record, but they did call us and tell us that.
that's very good.
Like I said, I've been out there 3 times since this came up. Not intentional. I didn't drive straight. I was driving close. So I thought I'd swing by. And it looks good to me.
It's just the only thing this is kind of along what Vicki said and what Jeff said is when we have a rule, you want to follow the rule as close as you can. So if, and this might be for a work session or something, we need to know what the rule is and what the objective standard is when your business grows above X percent of whatever, I mean.
That's the
when-
hard part, though, is how do you put
Right.
it down in black and white? What's the cutoff? Is it,
And maybe that's the policy part. that needs
is
to
it
be talked about.
dollars generated or employees or square footage? I mean,
I don't know.
Well, I don't think you can, and that's what I'm getting at. I think this board's job is to look at each case and just, figure
I
out.
like to be as objective as we can.
Yeah.
I understand, but you got to remember how this business started. They were working in a shop that went out of business. So you don't want to set somebody up for failure. You want to let them build these businesses, start and evolve into a larger business.
Just want to be fair to everybody.
Yeah, I understand that, but we have rules, and they are complying. They've applied. They didn't say, no, forget you, I'm not going to do this. They came in, filled out the necessary paperwork, made application, went through the process.
And absolutely, we want to encourage these
And
companies.
that's what we want to encourage people to come in here and go through the process. So, is there any further discussion on this? Do you have anything else, Crystal, on this one?
No, sir.
Okay. Now entertain motion.
Whose district is it?
Mine. So,
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-28, permit for B&G Automotive.
Is this with the conditions of the planning and zoning, or?
Yeah. Including conditions set forth by Planning and Zoning Department.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Was one of them conditions?
I didn't see a fence on there. Nobody asked for a privacy fence.
Well, no, one of our requirements is that everything has to be stored inside of the building.
So with conditions, they're going to have to remove a culvert that the county sold them and put in?
Well, I guess my question before I would ask Jeff was, did the applicant have any concerns with the recommendations set forth by planning and zoning? Because I'm in agreement with you on the driveway for sure. But
I believe you would want to ask the applicant if
they had any concerns.
Is the applicant present? Oh, would you come forward, state your name?
In Ricefield, 18090 Evans Road. If my mom is still alive, I could probably find the key on the driveway, but I cannot find it anywhere. I looked in that house all over the lower driveway. So
I probably put it in, so I mean, no, that's no lie. Right, and the county encouraged that. We sold pipes and we made money on pipes and we installed them and we charged for delivery.
we had to have it with the downstairs driveway.
Yeah.
Downstairs, we had a garage door downstairs.
Well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
We can modify your motion.
yeah, amend my motion to say excluding the driveway culvert condition.
And I agree to that as a second.
Okay.
Did you have any other concerns or stipulations with the recommendations?
Is that for a year? Is that for 3 years?
So
It was
the
3
recommendations of planning and zoning was 3 years.
I pay it every 3 years.
Oh, no. Just this SUP is a 3-year term.
So you pay it one time.
You pay it one time.
One-time fee.
Yeah.
Not every year I pay it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure.
Yeah.
How long have you folks been there?
How long have it been?
How long have your family owned the property?
30 years.
Oh, so you get to pay for it twice. You guys had to pay for it to chip and seal it.
I paid for my house on Evans Road. I paid my dad's taxes on his house.
Yeah.
My mom died, so I paid Social Security. I paid for a lot. But not my mom. So
No, I meant your family would have paid to pave all the roads in there. Yeah.
That road.
So,
Yeah, it's a one-time fee.
yeah,
So,
that's probably a bad deal, but that's okay. Okay, all right. All
But you were okay as far as the business with the other conditions that were set, was the question.
Everything she asked me to do.
Okay.
other than the culvert, you're good.
Cool, right? I think that I should have to move that.
Okay.
And we changed that, so.
I know Chuck McConnell real well used to be a fireman, so I know the signing ones in the yard.
Okay.
I don't have any signs up, and I don't have any parking signs. I know she's concerned about putting up parking. We don't want to put signs in my yard, so I can't put it until
Right. Well, it doesn't sound like you need to advertise. Sounds like you got plenty of business.
I don't do anything. It's
Yeah.
all word of mouth. My
Yeah.
neighbors love me. I'm a convenience. They drop their car off, and I take it back to them when I'm done, and then we're done.
Okay. All right.
Well,
All right, thank you. So we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then voting? Aye.
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 Commissioner Cobb votes aye.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next one.
Alrighty. Next item I have before you is a resolution to approve, a request to approve resolution 2020-29. This is to add cross-access easements to our zoning and subdivision regulations, otherwise known as private roads. This is a topic that we have spoken about quite a bit over the last couple of years, this board especially with staff. As you may recall, we had a work session regarding cross-access easements. The board gave very clear direction to staff about what the board would like to see. I took that to my planning commission. I don't believe it's any secret that our planning commission has been pretty against private roads in the last couple of years because many of them have been on our planning commission for a very long time, and they have seen some of the concerns come out of private roads. Our planning commission did support the idea of private roads, but they really wanted to see standards, design standards and such. And again, that's a topic that we have had many work sessions about, and the board has given very clear direction. The planning commission voted to deny this particular amendment to our regulations, specifically because there are no standards. So they did vote 6-1 with one member abstaining from the vote to recommend denial. In order to pass this resolution, it will require a 2/3 vote, so a 4-1 vote of the Board of County Commissioners. Of course, you may also send it back to the Planning Commission if you wish to do that. And I will answer any questions that you may have.
What do other counties do that have this?
So we have a neighboring county who has these, and that's who we have pretty much modeled ours off of. And they do have standards. They're very minimal standards. They are not. We didn't feel that those standards were entirely too difficult to adhere to. And then there are other counties that just simply do not allow private roads.
Right.
And then some of our bigger counties in the metro, while they allow private roads, they have very strict rules about what private, they have to be paved. They essentially have to be built to the standard of
The county standard.
the county standard.
Well, if you build it to the county standard, you might as well have the county take it over and maintain it.
Yeah.
They can be gated. So in some of the
Okay.
larger municipalities, that's what the desire is to have gated communities.
Gated communities.
So, we're talking about subdivisions that have, $1.5 million homes sort of thing, that they want to have a gate and a private road.
Okay.
So maybe maintaining that sort of road is not the same issue as in other places.
Bill, anything you might want to add or speak to in regards to this?
On minimal standards?
On just because it's,
Because you're going to get the call.
you've seen a few of these counties, obviously.
I've seen these in the past in multiple locations, and I think that it's dependent upon the board's direction of where they feel the weighted value of these easements and what direction they want to move forward with. There are standards, like Crystal said, that range from you build a county subdivision standard road on one hand, and then there are others that have very lax or very non-existent standards. I believe that some of them are contingent upon the road type that you're accessing. So the middle ground, if you're discussing standards here today, kind of the middle of the road standard would be if the road is accessing off of a gravel roadway, then there would be some sort of gravel road standard. asphalt roadway or a state highway. In some of the neighboring counties, they require to match the type of surface you're coming off of.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we've had a lot of conversations about adjacent road type, right? So to hold somebody to a standard that's higher than the road you're coming off of, in my opinion, is just absurd. Mm-hmm. But you get into this point where there is really no quote-unquote standard for, a lot of these gravel roads that are in existence now where construction is wanting to occur.
And we did have a discussion about the, I know when this was discussed at the work session, we were talking about some of the commissioners wanted to have a requirement that it be hard surfaced, and then others didn't. And that was one of the discussions that came about. But this policy's been thoroughly discussed and vetted, and I certainly think, I know that the Planning and Zoning Commission may not feel that they agree with us, but we're trying to move ahead with allowing for development and opening up the county for development, and this has been thoroughly vetted and looked at, and certainly to further delay it, I think would be a big mistake.
To extend a little bit of information to your question, Commissioner, these are allowed within the urban growth area of the city of Lawrence. The city of Lawrence and Douglas County have a joint planning commission, and that's where the criteria is that the roadway meets the standard of the road it's connecting to. So if it's connecting to a minor collector road that has low volume traffic, it may be, I don't have the standards memorized, but it may be an 18-foot wide roadbed within a 60-foot cross access easement with 6 inches of compacted 8-inch type material. If it's off of a major collector that is off of a gravel roadway, it may be a 22-foot standard roadway with 9 inches or something of compacted 8-inch material. Not full roadway design, obviously, to take into your national standards, but there is that discussion that you guys could have, or there is the other thought of direction that the resolution. So, if you have any other questions you may have.
This is Commissioner Paz. Before in the discussions expressed that I think there needs to be some level of minimal standards, even if it is matching to the roads that tie into a new subdivision or private road.
Well, maybe on the gravel, but if you're going to be on a blacktop and hold them to the standard of an asphalt road, they're going to put in an asphalt road and have the county take it over. We'd really like to have the county not be doing maintenance in these subdivisions, because it's a whole lot easier to go down the road for several miles instead of going into these subdivisions and short streets and cul-de-sacs and do maintenance. I thought that's where we were heading, was trying to put the maintenance portion on these people who develop these subdivisions.
Oh, and I think the concern for planning and zoning has been they've seen where that the maintenance hasn't occurred. Our roads have come into disrepair. And then you start getting into conversations of, well, then, what is the policy or procedure to go down the benefit district and ultimately make sure that because those roads weren't maintained, if we have to take them over, then your taxes will reflect it.
Right. So. Put it all on the property owners.
And that's what we were trying to get towards, is that you would have a benefit district or a
HOA.
Homeowners Association. But I think this has been thoroughly talked about. I mean, we've been dealing with this ever since I've been on here.
Any thoughts, Commissioner Culberson?
Yeah, I just think this would be development friendly to pass this, and we're kind of insulated. If the county eventually does take it over, it has to be brought up to our standards before we take it over. So
correct.
This would allow them to develop the subdivisions with a lesser road until a time when they want the county to take it over, and then it wouldn't cost us anything to get it brought up to the county standards.
Keep our guys from having to do the maintenance and snow removal.
Snow removal and surface maintenance.
I mean, I can't imagine somebody putting something in, if they're trying to try to sell some lots, that's going to be, not at least
The
have a
biggest-
little width to the road.
And the biggest thing I wanted to get away from was requiring rural subdivisions off of a gravel road to put in a chip and
Asphalt.
seal or an asphalt road. That's the biggest thing I wanted to get away from.
Holding people to a higher standard than what the county is.
And the road, I look at Bear Lake, it's in my district, that it's, they have paved surface roads, but they're not
Not wide.
They're not wide.
They're not built to meet the county standard.
but they're really nice roads,
Right.
and they maintain them.
They maintain them, and they like price.
So and that seems to be, especially in the southern part of the county, we're getting lots of those type of developments that are going to be coming in. So let's promote that.
They probably don't even like people going in there campaigning, do they?
What were you?
Not a whole lot.
What was the more recent that had 30 some lots, of which almost all had already been?
Mr. Wellman.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he didn't put in private roads.
No, I know. I'm just trying to think of how quick. Again, just the demand factor. So.
Oh, the demand? Yes, very fast.
Because always the bigger picture is the only way to keep the mill levy down, keep people's taxes down, is to be development friendly.
Well, at least not to where the road department has to take over a new stretch of road every year.
It's all relevant.
Like I said, it's tough to maintain subdivisions. It's very hard to be efficient when there's snow removal. It's a lot easier just to take off down the road and, make your loops instead of cleaning cul-de-sacs, cars parked in it. But, any other questions or discussion on this? Any other thoughts? Mr. Cos, any other thoughts?
My thoughts still come back to some level of some standard, because it was just kind of what you said. If you've got emergency vehicles that have to get into some place,
Okay.
even if it's a private road.
Yeah.
You ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-29.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And voting?
Aye.
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 So,
Okay. Thank you. So,
All right, Commissioner.
Crystal again.
last but not least.
Almost finished with me. Almost.
That's all right.
You all may recall that in early August we had a special use permit request come before you for Tri-Hole Crane. I'm sure you have not forgotten. This board asked me to go back and get additional information, which I have done. Earlier it was stated that the KTA had provided additional information, which is true. They had provided additional information. They also had stated that without having more specifics, they could not give a very black and white sort of answer. However, it should be noted that the Tri-Hole Crane operation, they have all of their state permits and such to operate on state roadways. So those are legal limits. So it's just worth noting that while the KTA folks did not specifically look at the cranes, that the holes do have their appropriate permitting through the state. However, KDOT has decided that they are going to take a closer look at that intersection at Chieftain Road 2440 and Loring Road. At the intersection there was a little bit of disagreement amongst engineers at KDOT. However, they've decided to take a closer look at it. KDOT, just like Leavenworth County, is perpetually short-staffed and always running behind. So they anticipate that taking a couple of months anyhow. They're hopeful to have it done within 2 months. So because this board had asked for additional information, our recommendation is that we wait until KDOT has provided the information that we have asked for, and that we push this to the November 4th meeting. That should give us, hopefully, KDOT enough time to get out there and provide a report back to me so that I can update this board.
Okay. What was the KTA, if this was requiring them to go to the west, the bridge would be to the east?
Right, so
Or it's
the bridge is to the east, and like I said, it's a 20-foot wide bridge. It's not a single-lane bridge, which is something that had been brought up by some of the neighbors, is that it was a single-lane bridge, and that's not true. It's not. Staff had recommended that all traffic go to the west to 2440, simply because that is the shortest distance to a state-maintained road, and state-maintained roads are made to handle these sorts of loads. The applicants had stated that sometimes they go east and they go all the way out Loring Road to 222nd Street and then down 222nd Street to get on I-70. It's obviously a much greater impact on our roads than just turning right out of the driveway and getting on 2440. Sometimes that's inconvenient for the applicants, certainly. However, as we have stated, we have a responsibility to protect Leavenworth County roadways.
I don't have this SUP right in front of me, but you were requiring that they go to the west.
Correct, yes. And KTA had simply said.
That's what I didn't understand. Unless KTA, do they have plans to upgrade that? Because I know they're going to be 6 lanes to KC eventually.
Because that was a staff recommendation.
Okay.
As we all know, sometimes staff recommendations get overturned, and certainly the Holes do not particularly want to have that recommendation because, like I said, sometimes it's inconvenient to them. So KTA has confirmed that, yes, that bridge can handle legal load limits. However, they would certainly prefer, it's not a high traffic way bridge.
Right.
Not that the Holes are putting, lots and lots of traffic over it, but KTA would certainly prefer that we follow staff's recommendation that they just go directly to 2440 because that is the least impact to all of the infrastructure in the area.
Okay.
I understand the inconvenience factor, but we're talking about minutes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
This isn't a E58 inconvenience.
Right, yeah. And staff felt that that was a perfectly reasonable expectation. Like I said, I understand that perhaps it is inconvenient. However, we're also talking about very large.
And then we heard some talk about the drainage structures, which Olson has said were okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, they have to make some improvements to the one that is on their driveway. However, the other structures that are on our roadway.
I believe they've already made their improvement to their driveway.
I believe so. I know they have their permit.
But I'm
to
talking,
do that.
the concern was the one off of Chieftain Road. But according to our engineer report, it's fine.
Yes.
There's a couple people on Loring that have had dust control pavement in front of their homes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take that into account, the damage that would be done to that? And
The chip seal?
yeah.
The guy that's done that, I think,
I think there's two houses. There's two houses that are.
There was one house on there. That man, he resealed every year for a long time. I bet his is in good shape.
Yeah, and so my question about that was probably those people should be compensated or made whole on that so that it's maintained.
So I'd actually like to point to a statement that was made earlier today, and that is that, in these agricultural areas, we have hay trucks and semis for, coming and going from farms and such that are also driving on that roadway, and we don't make considerations for those. Certainly the Holes should be good neighbors. If staff had it our way, we would say that whole roadway needed to be upgraded. But historically,
we don't want to be arbitrary and capricious
historically, that has not been, something that we have pursued. I believe that if this operation continues to grow, that those are things that absolutely need to be taken into account. But it is important to remember that we're not talking about these cranes driving back and forth multiple times a day. We're talking multiple times a week.
That's what I was going to ask next, is how much traffic are we talking about? Because everything I looked at, there's going to be a couple days where there's no traffic at all.
Correct.
And so 3 or 4 times a week,
they shared that, again, whether it's one of the units or multiple units, that it could go out and back in the same day, but that probably is not the norm.
Right.
But still, if it went out and back in the same day, that would be a total of 8 trips on 4 units.
And
A total.
And Bill said they account for, what, 2,000 cars?
The impact to the
Yeah,
roadway.
the impact to the road. So, I mean, I've visited with the neighbors. I really believe that we're getting close to where we can have, I like to have private decision-making between the neighbors and everybody kind of come to a consensus between the neighbors. And I think we're pretty close to that. I think we should wait to see what the KDOT study is on that corner, because if it comes out wrong, we're going to have to go the other route. But you're not going to have a choice. So making a decision today would be premature. But I think Mr. Hall has been very, very cordial about his wanting to build the trees, and I think the neighbors could come to a consensus here between now and November, I hope.
The conclusion that I thought we had come across last time was that some or most of those conditions at least met the majority of concerns by the neighbors, other than we're always going to talk about safety and we're always going to talk about roadways, in which case that's the KTA piece, which if we're going to get in 2 months, I don't see why that would be an
KDOT,
issue.
well, even if the KDOT comes back with, oh yeah, we need to fix the intersection, the KDOT's got to fix the intersection.
That was my question.
Not
was,
the county.
What are we
not
waiting
private
for?
individuals.
But we couldn't approve it going that way till it was fixed, if that was the case.
But can't we just make a condition?
We
on-
could tell them to go the other way.
Yeah, they go
Yeah.
the other way.
But,
You can't landlock somebody because
Right.
there's an intersection that may be.
no, I'm
high
just
risk.
saying we need to wait. I think things should stay the way they
You're
are
saying
right
with
now.
staff recommendations that the direction they've been given, it's a non-issue.
Yeah, I mean, all we're waiting on is something we can't control anyway. So why are we waiting on it? Just put it as a condition on the approval of the SUP. So conditional to what KDOT's outcome is from their study,
Well-
and either they go that way or they go the other way, based on what they come up with.
I just don't know if I don't know if everybody's come to consensus on what those conditions should be yet. I don't know if the neighbors have, I think they're a little far apart still as far as, what those conditions are going to be. And I would hope that the neighbors, and I've talked to a lot of the neighbors, I haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Hall yet, but I think we're pretty close to everybody coming to an agreement, and it'd be good to come to a private agreement ahead of time before we impose it.
Well, I think the
Yeah,
neighbors are
yeah.
waiting for certain conditions to occur, but
bet.
until the SUP is decided, then those conditions may not move forward. I mean, those are conditions of the SUP. So, to your point, Mike, I think there's people that are waiting for certain things to happen that won't happen until.
Mr. Cos,
Go ahead.
I still maintain that the parcel itself is being used for industrial purposes. And I also I want a very tight timeline during which time they need to relocate that business to an industrial area.
If they grow, or if they stay the same size as they are now, or if they decrease in size.
No, I mean now. They need to start looking now.
What if the economy has a downturn and they all of a sudden they sell a crane and lay off a couple people?
Okay, well then that's downsizing the business, but I think that the business, the size it is now, warrants being relocated to a business district.
Well, I think the applicant said that they would start looking, and that if we were to approve, say, a 3-year time period, that might give them enough of a chance, depending on the size of the business, to potentially relocate.
Okay.
Why, Vicki? Remind me again why the industrial concern?
Because they are salvaging, and when you salvage, that turns property into industrial use versus commercial use.
They are not salvaging. They're not asking for a salvage license. They do not advertise salvage. They do not buy salvage.
They haul off debris from jobs, and then I believe if there is any monetary exchange, it's actually donated.
And it's not haul off debris. It is whole units of air conditioners from hospitals and other large organizations, and they are storing.
But when you put in a new air conditioner, you have to haul off the old one. That's what they needed the crane for, was to replace it.
And Vicki, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I think the nature of the SUP itself being a 3-year timeline takes care of that issue. At the end of 3 years, we'll either say, hey, you grew bigger, and we told you you probably needed to find an industrial park if you got bigger, or you maintain the same or decrease in size, so it's okay. I think it's covering what you're saying. At the end of 3 years, they'll either get an SUP or they won't, based on the activities over the last 3 years.
And I don't want to.
Well, they
Go ahead.
advertise more than 4 cranes that they currently own and rent.
Well, I was thinking about maybe adding a condition of the chemical spray for dust control until I saw what the actual traffic count is, and that wouldn't make a lot of sense because there's more combines and grain trucks go down that road than there are cranes. Trucks,
School buses.
school bus,
garbage
yes,
trucks.
hay wagons.
So
A grain, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure single axle grain wagon weighs more per tire
Per
weight
axle,
than these big
Right.
trucks. So
and I'm sure if they do continue to grow, they're going to have to go look for a place. But I hate to keep bringing up Miles Construction, but Steve Miles started his business out of his house at 163rd and Leavenworth Road. And look what that grew into. And Leavenworth County appreciates businesses like that because we love cashing their checks. So
I think that we can come to a consensus and a compromise with the neighbors. I've met with some of the neighbors. I haven't met with everybody, and I haven't met with Duskin. But I think if we give this a little more time and just leave the status quo, because nothing's going to change. If we don't do anything today, what's happening now is going to continue to happen. And we try to work a compromise wherever everybody kind of agrees. You're not getting everything you want, but we're going to require some sound abatement. We're going to require some screening or fencing and come to a compromise. And I think we can do that by November if we would just give it a little more time.
and the sound.
Well, at our last meeting,
What was the sound?
Mr. Hall agreed that he would be willing to put a tree line. Right, that would abate the sound.
The AC units he brings in, but where are we getting the sound? These trucks all have.
Because the neighbor was concerned about some sound issues, and
From the
we
trucks
talked.
or the motocross track?
Well, this was something that came up at the last meeting that Mr. Hall was willing to do.
All these trucks are legal, they have exhaust. And
I'm not talking about the trucks right now, Doug.
Well, what are we talking about then?
Well, what I am talking about is what we had
We're talking
presented
about the
at the
motocross
previous hearing on this issue. Mr. Hall had agreed to put some trees along the way. I've talked to the neighbors. They said if there was some covering put up front that blocked for privacy, that would meet some of their concerns. And I just think we're a little premature to try to force this through today when we maybe can get the private decision-making of the neighbors and take care of this where everybody can kind of come to a halfway.
I understand what you're saying, Mike.
Yeah.
But my question was just, what actually are we waiting for? To your point, that's true. They could probably, the several people that I've talked to, the issue was more about the motocross track than it was the crane thing, which isn't even something we're considering. But they said they're a lot happier. They said they're making a conscious effort, to knock down the noise from that. That's what I was on with Doug. I didn't know if you were talking about that or talking about.
We're just trying to come to I think everybody's going to be able to come to a consensus.
There's private decision-making versus what the conditions of the SUP are going to be. And those aren't even, they were here last time in front of us. They're not included in today's packet. Those same conditions that we may need to add to or alter from. So since they're not here, I don't think we have a choice but to
wait.
Yeah, wait. And we might as well wait until we have the KTA study if we're going to be waiting anyway.
Okay, and then that will just determine which way they leave their driveway. But I don't.
And hopefully that gives more time.
I don't think you're going to get. I don't think you're going to get KDOT to admit that that intersection's unsafe.
Probably not. Well, but maybe they'll say
because if they do, they got to fix it right now.
I just hope they're better than AT&T and all the other groups we work with as far as adhering to timelines. So.
Oh, you got some high hopes. That's fine. We'll wait. All right, and I'll entertain a motion to table this till November. What was it?
4th.
November 4th.
I move that we table Resolution 2020-1 2020-25 till November 4th, 2020.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Commissioner Collins votes aye.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like y'all to cross the finish line today, too.
That's all right.
All right. Does anybody have anything to report on that they've been? Do you have Port Authority, I believe?
Yeah, it was Jeff and I attended the Port Authority meeting last Thursday. Is that right? Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah, the same day as ours.
I don't know that there was a lot to report. Obviously, there continues to be a lot of discussion and support for the new federal penitentiary. For those that don't know, so I don't know if we covered that last week or not, but that's a
we did.
large project.
And it sounds like it's going to get kicked off pretty quick. So
$350 million, only adding 30 new jobs.
Yep.
No taxes.
No tax.
Keeps all the ones we got, though.
Keeps all the ones we
Keeps
got.
the tradition alive. That's the
Maybe
only
if
positive.
the other one turns into a museum, it'll bring in tourists.
Yeah, the ironic part is the biggest taxpayer in Leavenworth County is the private prison we have.
Mm-hmm.
And now the least taxpayer by valuation is going to be the new prison we get. So that's one fun fact.
Well, we've got to get
I don't know.
some
It's a
housing.
fact. It's a
We need to
fact.
get housing available for these new 30 jobs so they don't cross the river.
Yeah, right.
If they live here.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Collins, you have anything to report on?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I attended this, listened in on the city committee meeting last night, and Jamie Miller will be a guest at their town hall meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Okay.
The only other report I have is, and Vicki, correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're on those emails as well, but I think the City of Lansing, they had canceled their work session last week. They do have their city council meeting tomorrow. They're still not allowing access, so you have to watch it via video.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
I do have one thing, Doug.
All right.
I'd like to compliment Bill on we've advanced. Now the school's started, we advanced again information to the state, and we found a new person to take it to, and along with the letter from Senator Braun about the traffic light at K32 and 158, asking for a traffic light study, and the letter we had previously submitted.
Mm-hmm.
So we think maybe we've got another avenue. Maybe we're going to have some success this time.
School district?
Yeah, they
Okay.
also sent a letter of support,
All
correct? Baser Linwood?
Early on for the study.
Yeah,
They
for the
sent a
study.
letter of support for the cost share application, but not specific to that intersection.
Okay, they did say they would, so maybe we can follow up on that. And it's for the Kansas cost share monies to help us with that
Right.
traffic study for
The traffic
stoplight.
study. Will it be a stoplight or a roundabout?
Hopefully a stoplight.
Okay. Well, roundabouts are the future.
Okay.
I'm not saying I support it, but I'm just saying.
And Chad and I will be, just so the public knows, sitting in on the selection process this afternoon for the engineering firm for the Eisenhower Road project.
That'll be a good one. We've got to get Eisenhower out to bid, and that fulfills our punch list for what the voters passed on the sales tax for projects.
No, and I wanted, Bill, thank you again for getting all those dates out and holding everybody accountable and moving that forward. So that's great. So
Yeah.
thank you, Vicki, for bringing that up.
All right. If they don't have anything else, then a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second. Voting? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Cosmo, aye.
All right.
Everybody, thank you for